I am here today with Deborah Bonham and Peter Bullick of Bonham-Bullick. Deborah is a blues rock soul singer and songwriter who has toured and/or performed with the likes of Paul Rodgers, Slash, Ann Wilson, Jeff Beck. The list goes on and on. She is indeed the sister of the late, great Led Zeppelin drummer John Bonham. Deborah has teamed up with husband and guitarist Peter Bullick to form Bonham-Bullick. And Bonham-Bullick is releasing a 13-track self-titled covers record on April 29th on Cordo Valley Records. And I have to tell you, we have mutual friends, a couple of them. Bruce Cordo, you're on Cordo Valley Records, and that was great to see. I got to know Bruce when he was just starting the label, and to see it, progress with great acts like yourself is really, really a great thing. He's a great human being.
Fantastic. He sure is.
Yeah. And Chaz West. I was chatting with Chaz last night.
Kidding.
Yeah. Yeah.
We know many stories about Chuck West that probably you need to switch off the air time before you can hear any of these stories.
Yes, he sends his best to both of you, and he was just telling me how much he enjoyed his time with you and touring with you and doing those shows. Of course, Chaz being the singer of the Jason Bonham Band. And
great singer.
Yeah, he is something special. Another great human being.
Although he was actually the one clean story I can tell about him was he was actually the loser in a cocktail drinking competition with me.
You never go against an a Brit when you're into that.
Even worse than that, Irish.
Pete's Irish, so you would never go against an Irishman at a drinking competition. Never.
I love it. Let's talk about Bonham and Bullick. This is just a really special record. It really tunes into what you guys do best, I think. That blues thing, Deborah being, an amazing blues singer. Peter, these solos, astonishing. Really, really great. How did you come to choose these specific songs for the record?
Well, it started really with a few friends, sending me different songs. We knew we wanted to do a new project. We wanted it to be a band project. And we wanted to do an album that was rooted in the blues, which, we've always been that, rooted in blues, but with some rock and some soul. And but we just felt like this time we wanted to do some other people's songs, some classics like the Albert King song, Sam Cooke, O.V. Wright, Betty Harris, but we wanted to do some obscure stuff as well. And so, a couple of very close friends, Gary Nesbitt, who we were working with out in, he's in Princeton out in the US. And he sent me some great stuff. Another great friend of ours, Roy Williams, who sadly passed away just before the album was finished, but he was front of house engineer for Robert Plant for years and years, very close friend. And he sent me, a couple of CDs worth of songs, and Robert as well, sent some songs. So between us, we had about over 100 songs to go through.
Wow.
And I just sat and went through them, and there were all the ones that I brought as well that I thought, that could work. Ann Peebles and Sam Cooke, although it was a bit like axing my own leg, because all of a sudden I had these great Ann Peebles, Sam Cooke, and I was like, why am I trying to do this? Because the originals are so brilliant, and we had to take it another way. We had to bring us to it, and it had to be organic. You couldn't just you couldn't just copy it. But it was great. So whittled them down and, put them to the band and said, these are the ones I've chosen. Are you happy with them? And that's how it sort of came together.
Yeah, and they're great choices. I mean, you fit these so well, and it's not an exact copy. It is Bonham-Bullick
Yeah.
here. You know, it really
I
is.
think that, you know, we've worked together as a band for so long. You know, Pete and I have been together 32 years. So, you know, the band's been going. I mean, the bass player's been with us that amount of years. I've known him since I was 16. So we've been going a long time. So I know what the band can do more than anybody. You know, I mean, I know where they're at, what they get, what they don't get. And so the songs got picked on the basis of what we could bring to it, rather than just picking it for the song. You know, it was really how we were going to be able to interpret it and what we were going to bring to it, with respect all the time to the original writers and performers. You know, that was really utmost in the forefront for us. You know. Yeah. And it weighed heavy. I mean, it was a challenge, a mega challenge, but a great one.
I bet it was. These are not easy songs to cover, and you do a wonderful job doing them. Was there a particular song that had to be in the set? You know, the first one you chose is this is it. This is definitely one we're doing.
I think it was probably the See You Again. Probably the one that from the Burra album. That was Bernard Fowler, who's he's mainly known for backing singer with the Stones for, I don't know, 25 years or a long time. But he does his own solo projects as well. He's pretty cool. And this is one of his. And that particular song, probably first off for me, was the one to get my teeth into, and we did it a few times live as well. So and then the others start to come. I don't know. They seem to switch around your favorites at a time. You know.
You know what? We never played it live before we recorded the album. We've only played it since. And yeah, you're right that it's in the set list live. Yeah, for sure. That and Bleeding Muddy Waters. And well, that actually, you know, we were pretty stuck for which ones we wanted to put in the live set list, because we just wanted to play them all, I guess. It's such great songs, you know.
Yeah, Bleeding Muddy Water is Mark Lanigan's song, who sadly died a couple of weeks ago, didn't he? 52 years old. The Screaming Trees frontman.
I wanted to ask you about that one too, because you know you have Bernard Fowler, you have Sam Cooke, you have Ann Peebles. They're in the same realm. Mark Lanigan, maybe not so much. You know, I saw Mark Lanigan. I associate Mark with, you know, that 90s scene, the Seattle scene, that kind of thing. How did you find Mark's music? And you know, who suggested Bleeding Muddy Water? And it's one I always go back to when I'm listening to this record. It is incredible what you did with the song. And it fits you guys. Once again, it fits you so well. Tell me about how you found that song, and if you had any communication with Mark before he passed.
Yeah, over to you on that. That was Gary, I think, that one. Sorry.
Well, Gary sent me the Mark Lanigan, the album that Bleeding Muddy Water was on, and that track just leapt at me. You know, I mean, the lyric, the vibe, and instantly it was one of those that I could hear where it was going to go. You know, I wanted it to have that almost ethereal, I will say it, that No Quarter, that Led Zeppelin No Quarter vibe about it. Mm-hmm. And so I sort of knew where that one was going to go, but yeah, I get that it's left field of Sam Cooke and Peebles and Albert King, but it just felt right for us. You know, it felt the right vibe. Instantly we just fell into that one, and we just took it, our interpretation of it, and it came quite quickly. You know, I think we were just all so into the song that it worked for us.
Yeah, and it fits perfectly on this set, which was, why I think that's why it's so appealing to me. It's the square peg in the round hole you would expect, but it's really not. It fits so well into this set. I don't know how you did that, but you did it.
Well,
Really,
the key was, when with producing the album, to have an underlying marker throughout the whole album for every song. So it links them together. That we haven't gone for different styles on every song. We've kept the same style going through these different songs. So I think that that's what ties it in. Rather than trying to do different styles on each song, we've put our marker on it. And done our interpretation and pulled them together as a whole sort of album, really, a whole piece of work, rather than it all being separate. So I think a lot of that is the production and and also the mixing and mastering of it, which we did at with an amazing guy, Tim Oliver, at Peter Gabriel's studio. I mean, Tim was just phenomenal. He got what we wanted. And so there's that current, it just runs through the album, that it all ties it together. Similar instrumentation as well on each track.
yeah, and it is. It's a cohesive set of songs. It's a beautiful thing to listen to. It's incredible.
Thank you.
Another song that really jumps out at me, and I find myself going back to it constantly, the Changeling.
Yeah.
Last song on the record. It's so deep, so moving. The solo, fantastic. Tell me about that song. And that was a song that sounded slightly familiar to me, but I couldn't place it. What is the original of that, and how did you come to choose that one?
Pete, do you want to talk about that?
Now you do. Well, I know Chris Wilson, the writer of that, an Australian guy, and Chris is like quite a hero in Australia. It would be good if you'd heard of him in the States as well. And he was quite a troubled soul, wasn't it? But he died young as well. He died a few years back. Cancer got him. So a tragedy, and his songs are quite dark as well. He'd had a troubled life, and the lyric content's quite dark as well, and the mood of the music's quite. But it's I guess that's the blues, isn't it? So
when I first heard him, he'd only ever performed that song live, so I don't think it's actually ever been recorded. And he just blew me away. It was just him. He's singing. He's got an incredible. His voice is like something between, I don't know, Leonard Cohen, J.J. Cale. It's got that sort of vibe to it, but he's an incredible harmonica player as well. So when I saw him do it a live recording of it, he had a guitarist, just an acoustic guitar, and him on harmonica, and it just blew me away. I mean, totally. And again, it was a difficult song to do. We had to really dig deep, because he, the lyric, as Pete said, is so intense. And the way he did it was so intense that, we needed to do it justice. I didn't want to just, I wanted to have a go at it, but then I thought, if this really isn't coming together, I'm not going to push it, because we have to do it justice. And it did come together. But we sent it to, it was such a shame, because, he could never hear it, just like Mark Lanigan couldn't hear Bleeding Muddy Water. But we sent the Changeling to his widow, Sarah Carroll Wilson in Australia. And she's a respected, much respected singer-songwriter herself, and his sons are. So we sent it, to see what she thought. And she wrote me the most beautiful email back. Wow. So I think, I mean, I knew it was happening. I had tears rolling down my face while I was singing it in the studio. It really, really got to me.
And I hear that. I hear those tears for sure.
Yeah, it did. And we brought in I mean, a real close friend of ours, but he's played with just about everybody on pedal steel. BJ Cole. He's played with He's played with Emmylou Harris. Even with Humble Pie. I mean, he's played with everybody, and he's a great friend of ours. And I just thought, you know what? Let's try some pedal steel on this. And in came BJ, and we just all sat there going, yes, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and like I say, it is stirring. It's like I say, I can hear those tears, and I shed a few myself listening to that. That's just it's extremely powerful. What a way to end the record. Really something. Yeah, and you mentioned guests on the record. You have quite a few on the record, don't you?
Yeah, Pete.
Okay, I think we had.
I keep bringing him in here, Scott, because he occasionally just disappears and starts cooking himself something to eat or making chilies. So
I've got a chili dip here.
He'll just sneak off, and then you'll cut to him, and he's got chili all around his face.
Yeah. Not a problem. I've cut out this, and I've got to the point of chili. It's like there's no chili sauce. It's a hummus dip, and then I stick it in a big bowl of chili flakes.
There you go.
It's just proper chili, no messing. The guests. Let's see. We had with Marco Giovino on drums for half the album. Marco's played with us on the Spirit album, and he is also Robert Plant's Band of Joy. He's American, and he's played with Buddy Miller, and he played with JJ Cale as well, I think, and all that kind of stuff, and Emmylou as well. So he's on drums for half the album. He came over to England to stay with us to record it with us. So that was great fun. We were all living in one house together as we recorded the album together. So it was like an old school, everybody, you know. And then we'd all go out, you know, 6 or 8 of us all out at night for beers and something to eat and stuff. So it was all that kind of vibe when we made the album. And he did. And then we had Paul Brown, who's he's known as Brother Paul Brown. Now he played with Ann Peebles and Bobby Rush out in the States. And he's now with the Waterboys. So some of your audience might know this guy. He's a crazy Hammond player. I mean, when he plays Hammond, he's all over the shop, his hands and his head movements and everything. So he's a maestro on the Hammond. So he's on a few tracks with us. We've known him for about 20 years. He's been on our records before and stuff. So we had a good friend of ours, Joe Burt, on bass. We go back a long way with Joe, 35 years, and he's actually played he played on the Freddie Mercury solo album when Queen were coming to an end. So he's been around a bit, and I see you've got Black Sabbath on your shirt there, or on your jacket. Well, he played one Black Sabbath tour as well, right at the end. I think it was the tour that did Glenn Hughes sing with Black Sabbath at one point?
He did, yeah.
I think it was that. So it was a very small period in Black Sabbath's life. Well, Joe played in that very short period with Sabbath.
Yeah. It was a very short period.
Yeah. So
John Baggett. Don't forget John Baggett, Pete.
And then we had John Baggett, who again is Massive Attack and Portishead and Robert Plant's Strange Sensation and Sensational Space Shifters. Sorry. And he's on programming and Hammond and stuff. So he makes some of the pretty cool sounds on there. He's instrumental on that. And amazing. And with our pal John Hogg, who was in Magpie Salute with Richard Robinson? Chris's brother in the Black Crowes.
Right.
John Hogg. So he co-wrote a few songs with us previously as well in the Spirit album, and he's on backing vocals. We sort of just said, John, how would you do this? And I don't know if you can hear the backing vocals on this album we've done. They're lush and they're not obvious harmonies. They're quite a bit left field out there.
Yeah.
So it's that's a lot of John's thinking. That's great.
Yeah.
And J. Cole, as we mentioned.
It's great to have that kind of input from so many of these accomplished players.
And they were they were diving in with passion as well. They were going, yeah, we were almost offering them, obviously Debbie would give them a bit of guidance on what she would like, but I think generally she was standing back. She chose them because she knew she could trust what they would create themselves.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And that's genius. That is a huge help to not constantly hold somebody's hand and guide them through that, to let them just go and use that artistic ability.
I'd say the album's full of that. The album's full of everybody putting their bit in it, and of course they were chosen because Deborah had faith that they could do it. So,
and they did it for sure. no doubt. Deborah, I wanted to touch a little bit earlier in your career, playing with Jason. Early on, you recorded For You and the Moon in 1985, and it got great critical acclaim. A very different Deborah Bonham is what we hear. And I see that face, and that kind of may answer my question. I listened to that record. I absolutely love it.
Really? Okay.
I really do.
Do you know when people say that, I always go, oh, okay.
And my question for you was how you felt about that material now. But I hear a Fleetwood Mac, a newer Fleetwood Mac, not the classic Fleetwood Mac, the Stevie Nicks kind of vibe from that record. Now you have grown into more of Ann Peebles, Janis Joplin almost vibe later now. How do you feel about that material when you hear it? You cringe a little?
Well, it was at a time. I just got my first record deal with Career Records. I had absolutely no input in it. I'd written some of the songs. I mean, yes, you're right. You've hit the nail on the head. I really loved the West Coast music, and I loved Joni Mitchell. And although I was a soul girl as well, and rock, I loved Heart, and Little Queen was one of my favorite albums, Dreamboat Annie, and all of that. I loved Stevie. I loved Fleetwood Mac, but I loved Stevie's first solo album. So yeah, and I was, the songs were a little bit more West Coasty sort of thing, and then the record company took it the way that it ended up. They wanted that sort of Fleetwood Mac thing, but they wanted a hardened version of Fleetwood Mac, I think. I'm not quite sure. I mean, they sent me to Germany to make it, and no one spoke English, so I sort of, I really didn't know what was going on. I just turned up and sang, and after that, and I mean, it got some great reviews, but it wasn't me. I couldn't say that album is me and what I wanted it to be at the time. No, it isn't. It was very much orchestrated by the record label. Saying that, it was of a time. It's there. It's part of my history. I don't play it. I don't play it. I always say about the albums that we make, I just want to be in my old folks boogie home one day, and I want the marker for a great album for me is that I can still play it when I'm sat in that old chair going, I did that.
Right.
For You and the Moon isn't going to get played. I just know that. I'll be throwing that out the window.
Right.
But it's part of my history, and there's a lot of people that liked it.
Yeah.
And
it's very popular in South America for some reason. We get listening figures and purchase figures from Brazil and even Paraguay, Uruguay.
That is so interesting.
It's a South American classic, that.
I always find that interesting. The different regions of the world just accept things differently. It's just the strangest thing that will happen, and that's wonderful when that happens. it had great appeal. It really did. But I can see where you found your voice.
Yeah.
It's a different Deborah Bonham, and this record, this Bonham-Bullick record that you have now, is all you. It really, really is.
And it genuinely is. I mean, this time I really didn't want to get a producer involved. I just went, no, I want to produce it myself, because no one knows this band like I do. I know how far they can be pushed. I know how far they can go. I've seen it on stage. So I know that no producer's going to come in and know where these guys can go. They'll just, we've worked with producers before, and I've co-produced, and, we've worked with some great people. But I just thought, no, on this one, I'm going to take complete control and complete responsibility for it, moreover. And I'm really glad I did. I mean, to start off with, I thought, oh, geez, what am I doing? What have I done? But and it weighed heavy, it did weigh heavy. But I'm really glad I did that, because I was able to let the guys breathe, to let them go. And I would know instantly if they weren't quite there. So I could sort of say, very diplomatically, could you do that again? Pete would say I didn't say it diplomatically at all.
Ah, shucks. Poor Pete.
I'd be like, what's that crap? Can you do it again?
He's used to it, though, right? He's got to be by now.
Absolutely. But, it worked out, because they've all played their best. I don't think we could have got it any better. So I'm really proud that we did that. And going forward, it will be the way forward. But it's taken me a long time to get that confidence.
Answer this question.
To do it.
Took you a long time to answer that question.
Well, I love the sound of my own voice.
Nothing wrong with that. We love the sound of your voice as well. And I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about John. Growing up with John, of course, was he someone that put you on your path to being a musician?
Only through the music that he played and through watching him. No, I mean, he really didn't want me to go down this road at all. Not being his kid sister. I mean, he saw a side to the an unsavory side to the industry back then. If you think about it, in the late 60s and 70s, it wasn't really a great place for women. It wasn't. The music industry wasn't a great place for young guys either.
Right.
I mean,
and then there's also a downside.
Yeah.
he didn't want me to.
And the writer of that thought.
He didn't really want me to do that. He wanted me to do well at school, and it wasn't in his mind that his kid sister would end up going into the music industry. Nah. But you've got to go where your heart takes you, and it just took me there. And it's a different world now. And I'd like to think, especially with the music that we're doing, I'd like to think that, he would be jamming with us. He'd get up. He wouldn't be able to help himself. So I think he'd be quite proud of it now. Absolutely. But I understand why he had those reservations back then, because, he didn't want to see his kid sister get hurt. Or it's a tough business. And no doubt whatsoever, it's a tough business for women. Yeah. Really is. I think, but just being around that music with him and watching Led Zeppelin, going to Led Zeppelin concerts when I was very young. I mean, I was about 6 when he joined Zeppelin, so I saw them from an early age, and of course, it was world changing for me, of course.
Yeah,
to more than play, it was like, okay, that's what I want to do.
For so many of us, it was a life-changing experience. And of course, John being the iconic, one of the greatest drummers, if not the greatest drummer to ever walk the earth. There's so many people that love him so much. Is it sometimes difficult for you to find your identity and be Deborah Bonham and not be John's kid sister?
It has been, yeah. And there was times years ago where I, maybe thought that I should have changed my name, but at the end of the day, it was always going to come out. And the bottom line is if I can't do the name proud, then I've got no right being in the business anyway. So what he did for me was he set that bar so high. Led Zeppelin did. And it's created in me a crapometer, what I like to call the crapometer. So I pretty much know if we're on the wrong, and this is sounding rubbish, because always in the back of my mind, would Led Zeppelin have done this? It's always there. And because they were at the top of their game, they didn't put out nonsense. They really were together and at the top of their game. And he was always like that. He always had to be the best. He was always going to be the best. Yeah. And so that's been instilled in me a little bit. I've got that from him, that I really do see what we're doing. And if it's not good enough, I'll call it straight away. So it's had its moments where it's been difficult, but now it's not. I think we've done enough to prove that we're not trading on any name here. We're not on the back of Led Zeppelin. I'm doing my own thing, and we've been doing our own thing for quite a long time. And I think people have realised that now. But sure, in the beginning, it had its moments where people's expectations of what I was doing, right? That type of thing. But now, no, it's cool.
Yeah, that's great. That's good to hear. I have to ask, if you could have a conversation with any living person, who would you choose to have a conversation with? Peter as well.
Oh, crikey. Probably right now, Vladimir Putin, I suppose.
Yeah, I'll be with you on that.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll be a conversation, though.
Yeah. That may be a one-sided conversation.
Yeah. Maybe it could be just three. It could just be three initials. WTF. It's a sad situation what we have in the Ukraine with Russia, and we're praying for everybody there. The Russian people as well. I know they're not. They're probably not crazy about what's going on either. Yeah, they're great. They're a great bunch of people, and they're going to lose a way of life, if not lose their lives. So it's awful.
They said today that 10,000 have already been arrested just for protesting there. So God bless them, for doing that. It's a beautiful country with a beautiful history. It's just it's heartbreaking what's happening. Heartbreaking.
It absolutely is.
But who would I have a conversation with? A living person.
A living person. Yeah.
Who would I have a conversation with? Do you know? I don't know. There's so many. With
Poirot.
Yeah, I wouldn't know. I've never been asked that question before.
Okay. Yeah.
I can't think of anybody other than loads of people.
Well, that's a good thing, right?
Kelsey Grammer.
Kelsey, probably David Hyde Pierce. I'd love to. I love Frasier. I'm just a bit of a Frasier fan.
I think for me, it would be Larry David.
Larry David.
Yes. Yeah. Curb Your Enthusiasm. It's like I just want to ask him: has he been following me around every day? Hey, Larry, have you been following me for the last couple of years?
Yeah, you are Larry David, I've got to say.
That's great. I know you guys are extremely busy and you got a full day ahead of you. I don't want to keep it too much longer. Are we working on new original material for another record? Is that a thing you're doing?
Yeah. Slowly. I've just got back into it. I mean, the issue has been that we did this record and then we had to mix it during the pandemic, and then the pandemic stopped us going out touring, and I'm not very good at moving on. And once I move on into a new project, I absolutely leave the one behind, you know, and right. I'm not ready to leave this behind yet because we got delayed bringing it out. I'm really right in the focus of this album at the moment. And then we start touring on the 6th of April in the UK and Europe, and we're doing new tracks, you know, from the album. So my mindset is the Bonham-Bullick album. But that said, I have started writing a little bit, and we'll see where it goes. It will suddenly become a natural point where I'll go, okay, I want to sort of focus on something else, and then the band will do the same, you know. But at the minute, we're absolutely full in on this album, learning more songs from the album so that we can play them live. Yeah. And then hoping, praying that we can get to the US for the fall, hopefully, if the restrictions open up. That would be just brilliant if we can do that. We really want to come back there.
That was a question. That was my next question. When you coming to see me?
Yeah, get all your US agents out there to get on the phone.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. We need a great agent to take us on and bring us over there. I mean, we've done a few. We came out in 2018 with the Stars Align tour with Paul Rodgers and Jeff Beck and Ann Wilson. Pete and the band actually backed Paul for that tour, and I opened up the show. They did it in the UK in 2017 as well on the Free Spirit tour. So Paul Rodgers picked our band to basically do all his free material, which was incredible.
Yes.
And we were out there and it was brilliant. And then the momentum started going, and we came out in 2019 then off the back of that and played the East Coast, Cutting Room and Darrell Hall's place, Levon Helms, fantastic. And then bang, pandemic, wipeout, everything stopped. But it happened for everybody, you know.
I mean, Rich. See you, Rich. See you. Hello.
So, you know, it happened for everybody. So we just accepted that, and now we're on it again, and getting the album out and getting out and playing, and hopefully we'll be over in the US.
Oh, that'd be great. That would be great for sure. You're open up in England? You're able to play these shows?
Yes. Yeah. We've done a few already, haven't we, Pete?
Yeah, we did a couple of festivals in January that they have over here with grand titles. We did the Great British Rock and Blues Festival, and then the week after that we did the Giants of Rock Festival, and they've got about 3,000 or 4,000 people at each one. So it's a small festival, but you know, they maybe got 10 bands a day on there, and we got to air a few of the new songs off the new album for the first time at these shows, and they went down a storm. In fact, we kind of sounded quite a bit different from any other bands that were on those festivals, which was kind of nice, because, you know, a lot of the others would maybe be, you know, traditional blues start to finish, and we've tended to sort of done a lovely sort of mash of classic rock, blues, soul fused with a little bit of Celtic folk in there. Yeah. I think we got everything except the garage in there.
And the sync.
Yeah, we had sync problems. Lip sync.
Lip syncing. Very good.
Yeah, threw everything in except the lip sync. Yeah, that was it. Yeah. That was fantastic. It was fantastic. Went down great with the audience. They really listened intently if they didn't know it, and then appreciated it after it was finished. So it was great. And as a band, it's a great old buzz doing a new bunch of songs. Yeah, especially because when you've done the recorded version of it, there might be 2 or 3 different guitar parts on there, and there might be 2 or 3 different keyboard parts or something. Then, but by the time you do it live, you've got to choose one guitar part that fits all to do the show.
Right.
Same with the keyboard player; he's got to pick, you know, one of the parts to make it, or you end up having to do some sort of amalgam of it all. So it's another creative process. Again, because you're not able to reproduce the recorded version. You've got to do, yet again, a version.
That's great. I mean, it should always be like that live. I mean, you don't want to go out and do it exactly like the album. That's the whole point of live, isn't it? You know, I mean, again, growing up with Led Zeppelin, they never, ever did anything like it was on the album.
Yep.
You know, it's a creative process, exactly what Pete says. So, you know, it's great fun when we get on stage and you know, air these songs, because they're taking a life of their own, you know, a live life of their own. So it's great.
And then in a couple of weeks' time, we go off. We start our British tour. So we start off April. We start a bunch of shows. I think probably about 6 shows in April, and then it starts kicking off momentum into May, June, July, August. So
that is great. That is good news. That is great news. That people are getting out and, you know, finally enjoying live music again.
Yeah, and those shows will take us to Holland, Belgium, France, Scotland, England, and Wales.
That's nowhere near Chicago, I got to tell you.
No, but our phone lines, our phone lines are open, and our emails are open, and everything's open to you know.
Yes. Yeah, that would be great. Yeah. Deborah, Peter, thank you. This has been so much fun. I appreciate both of you so much. Thank you for the record, Bonham-Bullick. It's just an amazing record. Comes out on April 29th on Cordo Valley Records. Go listen to it, go buy it, pre-order it, whatever you have to do. Thank you so much. You guys are great.
Thank you, Scott. It's been wonderful. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. And I will see you in Chicago.
Yeah, absolutely. Sweet home.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening.
And you too. Cheers.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.